rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's just for public comment.
Okay. Welcome tonight, guys. Let's do the first meeting in recognizing Employee of the Month. I don't see Bruce in here tonight, but recognizing the Employee of the Month for July is Bruce Wright. He's a custodial worker too in the building maintenance department, and he's Bruce is a great guy, and so Laura Sikorsky, who works at the police department, wrote about Bruce. Bruce comes into work with a very positive attitude. He's always concerned that the building is kept spotless. He's on top of everything, and most importantly, with a smile and respect. He's such a pleasure to be around all day. Although his work is physical, he never complains and manages to be happy all the time. When people from the outside come into the building, they point out how clean and beautiful our workplace environment is, and Bruce is an excellent employee of the Village of Southampton. And so we recognize Bruce Wright as the Employee of the Month for July 2013. So congratulations, Bruce, and thank you for the job that you're doing. We have a public comment section. We do have a board hearing, a public hearing on the surf school, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to speak on that when we come to the public hearing. We have public comment. You have 3 minutes, and we have a couple of people who have signed up. All right, Sally, you're first. Come on up.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Sally Spanberg, and I live at 68 Moses Lane. In September of 2010, I appealed to you to revise Section 65-4 of the Village's codes, and you responded favorably. Some of you were there at the time. At the time, you were under the impression that the requirement for all structures in the village built prior to 1926 to be approved by the ARB before being demolished was sufficient in protecting this village's most valuable historic structures. But in 65-4 is a loophole that says, quote, no person shall carry out any exterior alteration, restoration, construction, reconstruction, demolition, or moving of a structure, land, trees, or plantings upon property designated a landmark or property within a historic district to the extent that it is visible from a public right of way, public street, or park, and which shall, and it goes on. The amendment to date has not occurred. Shortly after my appeal, your legal counsel suggested, and I'm not sure which legal counsel, suggested that just striking the words to the extent that it's visible from a public street or other right-of-way would do the job. But to date, it hasn't occurred. When I originally approached you, I was concerned about the survival of a historic home located on property in the Wickapog area, as well as a carriage house on First Neck Lane. Unfortunately, both were approved for demolition. However, thankfully, both of them still exist. Now, however, another application for the demolition of a carriage house on another First Neck Lane carriage house has been submitted. I appeal to you again, please, to consider making this simple amendment. Because of the amount of subdivisions which have occurred and continue to take place, many historic structures have become invisible from a public right-of-way, but they remain valuable to the architectural legacy of this village. This code amendment would ensure that at the very least, a certificate of appropriateness review process would take place. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sally. Rick will.
If there's something you want me to look at.
If you can look at that 65-4.
Did you submit a letter? Or
I have it here. We have it right here. Okay, so we'll
put together.
Yeah.
I mean, to the best of my recollection, we talked about this back at that time.
Yeah.
We then talked to the Board of Historic Preservation and Architectural Review, and they were satisfied with the code the way it was.
Yeah.
That's my recollection.
Okay, so we'll do,
Okay. I guess we can take another look at it.
okay. All right. Jack Lily White.
I may have inadvertently signed that because I'd like to reserve my comments for the proposition on the surf schools. That's
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else would like to make public comment? Okay. I'm going to close the public comment. We've got a board presentation. Kathy Ferraro. Hey, Kathy.
I had some things I wanted to give you, so.
Okay, actually just cycle them through Steve here, and then we'll pass them down.
Just like packages.
How many copies you got?
Oh, it's fine.
It's a whole package, pal. Packets. Okay.
Okay, my name is Kathy Ferraro. I'm a representative of the Southampton Animal Shelter. I am the public training and event coordinator. So the subject matter that I want to speak about this evening needs to take precedence as a sense of urgency. We would like the Village of Southampton to support the law against animal cruelty. The town of Southampton and the Village of Sag Harbor have initiated a campaign to stop people from leaving their dogs in cars during the summer season. Signs are posted and the police are becoming active in giving citations or removing the animals from cars. There are two laws, one New York State agricultural law and Suffolk County law. Laws were established as it was determined abusive and cruel to leave dogs in cars during the summer. Heat stroke as well as physical damage happens very quickly in a hot car. As you know, getting back in your car after it's been sitting takes many minutes to get the heat out and cool it down. So for a pet to be sitting in an unventilated car is very dangerous and causes death within 10 minutes. The county fine is $250. So on a day like today, which was 81 degrees outside just approximately, your car within 10 minutes will reach 138 degrees. So plus, an animal with a fur coat, that's another 10 degrees on top of that. And then with them panting as well, that's another 10 degrees. So within a matter of 10 minutes, it can go up to about 160 degrees. So we suggest that signs would be placed at all village beaches, 2 on each side. All village beaches, 2 on each side of the street on Main Street, Job's Lane, and in municipal parking lots. We would also ask that private lots can also put up these signs as well. I would please encourage a vote on this because this is a hot priority. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
All right, thanks. Is there any questions or anything? She tries to sneak away here. Trying to run away, maybe she has some questions.
So I was going to ask where you kind of hit on, where would you like the signs in other municipalities, where they've been placing the signs?
So they want, we would like the signs like in the municipal parking lots, 2 on each side of the streets of Main Street and Job's Lane. And like in the privates, like if you're going like down Gin Lane and stuff like that, down in those little private streets. This sign right here, we were actually going to post that at Red Creek Park.
Okay.
So the town has already taken, initiative to do it, and the signs are going to be donated.
Yeah. Where's the town? The town's putting them in all parks, or what are they doing?
I'm not quite sure about this. They kind of put this on me the last minute here, so I don't want to tell you the
Okay.
wrong information. But I know that the town has approved to, or agreed to put them up.
I don't know if this would work. Since we put out our bags for people who want to bring their dogs into the village, we've become a very pet-friendly community.
Right.
And, although people who would be taking the plastic bags to pick up after their animals have their animals outside of the vehicle. But I think if it were near there, because that's where it would be really noticed, because they're taking the bags,
Right.
I think it could be something that they'll think about? I mean,
Like,
I'm sure
oh.
they probably all know anyway, but, you know, what it ends up being is, and I know this could happen to me too, and I have a dog and I love my dog. You know, you're just running in for like just a quick thing, and then you meet up with someone, you know, and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, my dog's in the car.
Right.
So I think if we put this where all of the bags are, and people continuously see it, maybe it will drive something home.
Okay.
You know, there'll
Yeah.
be really a lot more, as opposed to, we have so many signs through this village. I'm sure everybody will agree with that. On the corners, there are signs. People don't even look at them anymore. I just feel, but I think there, they will look at it because they're going there for a reason.
Yeah, make
and
them
it is
think
about their
twice
animal.
also, yeah.
So it's a thought.
Okay.
I don't know, we have to see if we could do it there, but I think it's a
I
thought.
mean, I like the thought with the bags.
The mutt mitts, well, we have all the mutt
Yeah,
mitts.
yeah.
We have them at the beach.
Beach,
We have
yeah.
them on the street in many different locations throughout the village.
Okay.
So maybe that's an idea.
So we'll put this particular one, like
Or
maybe a little sign in there or something
smaller one
small?
there, yeah. I mean, this
These were
one
just
is
some
very
ideas.
powerful, quite honestly.
Yeah,
Or small.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, we like that one. That one stood
pretty
out really good.
powerful.
Yeah, because I don't think that on Main Street and Job's Lane, anybody's gonna see them. They don't even see the U-turn signs.
They're right there.
Good point.
I think I'm kidding, I'm not.
No, unfortunately, no, I know you're not kidding.
But there, they wouldn't have to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, if they're grabbing a mutt mitt, it's gonna be right there.
okay. That
So-
sounds like, hey, we're open for anything, just, you know.
So we'll
Well,
utilize
we'd have
it.
to
People
see
are
if they
doing it a lot. I can't believe how many,
Yeah, no.
I got cards that are a lot more fresh than what these say here. But, you know, yeah, like you said, people, 5 minutes, you know, but that 5 minutes, I've already seen some bad stuff already, so.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
And then, yeah,
Okay.
And then we were not allowed to idle anymore, so it's not as if you can leave the car going with
That's
your air
right.
conditioning.
that's right.
So,
So it's even better.
right. So really, you really do need a message for the public, because they can't idle their car anymore and leave their AC on.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, just something that stands out, you know, like that.
yeah,
You know, even just people coming into the shelter, we have volunteers that come to the shelter, and we have like bright yellow signs. And sometimes they use our back entrance. So when volunteers came in, they used the back entrance, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, there's a dog in the car." And, you know, they're thinking they're going to help, you know, which was nice of them. They're going to come and help walk our dogs and all that stuff. But so I called them over, and I brought them to the front of the building, and I go, "What stands out? What is it that you see in the front of this building that stands out to you?" And they said, "The sign." And I was like, "Well, what does the sign say?" And they're like, "Oh, my goodness, we were just going to stop for 5 minutes." And then I explained this whole thing to them.
Do you want to, I mean, I think that if someone were to do that, could you maybe explain what the steps would be to cool the animal down? I mean, not that we want to go there, but I did have an experience many, many, many years ago. It was not my pet, but it was a visitor. And they left the dog in the car, and the dog was bordering on being critical, and the vet just said, keep cooling it down
You actually
with water.
have to put them in a tub of water. And their body temperatures are already 101, 102 already.
Right,
So within, like, once they get up to 109, 110, and if it's not, you know, if they're not cooled off, then brain damage can happen.
right,
And even if you do cool them off, sometimes it's too late. They're,
right,
you know, so.
okay.
A tub of water, cold water, that's the quickest solution, right?
Ice, yeah, ice them down as much as you can. Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, we had one of our own dogs at the shelter, just from being in the kennel, because he's so hyperactive, he actually had a fever of 109.
Wow.
And we had to rush him to Dr. Meekins at Shinnecock Animal Hospital, and they had to put him in a tub of ice. And then keep him overnight.
Right.
Well, Kathy, I appreciate you bringing this and talking about this, so, and Nancy will,
We'll utilize them, we just find a good
Yeah.
spot to put
Now,
them.
do you
Yeah.
have these signs available, or would they have to be made up?
I'll make them available. I'll get them for you.
Okay, so maybe
Okay.
you and I should talk, and we can
Okay.
figure out a size, and we'll take a look at all the locations that we have our mutt mitts.
Okay,
I think that would be a good spot for it, actually.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
can you give Brenda your contact information?
Yes.
And
I don't have a card on me. Or they could always reach me at the shelter also.
Lisa.
Thank you very much for your time. I
Thanks.
appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Got the, next up is the proposed local law with respect to operation of surf school. Rick, you want to,
Just to give it,
actually should make a motion to open the public hearing, so. I'll make a motion to open public hearing and propose local law with respect to amending chapter 80-1A in the village code with respect to operation of a surf school.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
as you're aware, under the existing code, section 80-1A prohibits commercial activity on the ocean beach, with one existing exception. The prohibition does not apply to the bathing beach concession at Cooper's Beach. If enacted, this local law would create a potential limited exception from the commercial activity prohibition on the ocean beach for a surf school, provided that a license is obtained from the Board of Trustees for use at a designated location, and provided that the use is conducted in compliance with restrictions and conditions which you may establish. The concept of this is similar to what you did a few years ago with outdoor dining on the sidewalks. At the time, that was before we did anything, that was prohibited, and you decided that it would be a good thing to allow some outdoor dining on the sidewalks. So you, by local law, you amended the code to create an exception for that, provided that a license was obtained from the village for it, and you adopted various rules, regulations, and restrictions relating to the outdoor dining on village sidewalks. There are also some similar exceptions from Ocean Beach regulations that we did a few years ago when you adopted a local law requiring a permit for special event activities on the ocean beach. So this is similar in concept to those things. If you adopted the local law, you would have to then designate a particular area on the ocean beach where a surf school might be allowed to operate, and you would have to establish the restrictions regarding hours of operation, days of operation, number of persons attending the surf school, and things like that. And also the, under the draft local law, any location on the ocean beach which you might designate for a surf school would be limited to a portion of the ocean beach owned by the village. So it would not be occurring on the ocean beach where on privately owned property. That's basically the summary of the draft local law.
Phil, we have a few people here that want to speak. Why don't we let the public speak, and then if we have comments. So, Matt. Actually, just come on up to and identify. Just when you. Yeah, you're speaking.
First one.
Yeah, just there's a sign-in sheet up there also. That way, just sign your name and.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Palumbo. I live in Southampton, 150 Bridie's Path. Is it appropriate to ask a question at this time?
Yeah.
The question, number one question in my mind is when you talk about a village-owned beach, what does that limit it? What beaches are we talking about?
It's not going to be the picnic area.
And that's definitive.
Yes.
Because
That's what everybody. To me, it's not even That's not even a question.
And we have that in writing, it's not gonna
Well,
be,
when we do this, it would, that's the whole purpose behind this, is to designate date, time, and place, and location of this to occur.
well, you saved me a lot of talking.
Okay.
Can you designate the areas that the village owns?
Got to come up.
Well,
Well, actually,
one at a time.
we're going to
That-
do one at a time.
That is actually, you preempted the question as stating that it wouldn't be in the picnic area, which
Right.
which satisfies my main concern, as evidenced by the petition that was drawn
Yeah.
up. And I want to make it clear once again, this petition was not against the surf school in particular. However, they exemplified exactly why we need that type of legislation to protect. You know, they actually hit every sore spot with what happened down there. And I asked last time, how did it happen? You know, I have a copy of the application here that my good friend Mr. McLaughlin picked up. And on the cover page, it says, continuing on my 2007 resolution with the village board to operate my surf school for the 11th season. So it appears to me that that's contrary to the law. And even tonight, I mean, I had a night off with my children and I had to leave them to come here to make sure that my rights are protected and my ability to enjoy my time off is protected. And it's actually quite frustrating. To continue further, seeing as we are talking about this particular surf school that has demonstrated a propensity to actually aggravate a lot of people, I would like to touch on those points that caused me to really be very proactive about this. The picnic area in general has been, we actually had to form a committee. SABA was formed to protect it because of the lawsuit that was generated just from us visiting down there. We're donating money in memory of people who lived down there our whole lives, and again, it's a slap in the face that we had to come to this. Anyway, that particular camp, they go contrary to surfing. They're not teaching surfing. They're teaching how to make money and how to push people into waves. And, well, I was down there a number of times when people got pushed out in front of me.
Let's do this.
Well-
Let's do this. Let's just focus in on the local law. Okay.
I'm saying, if you consider a surf camp,
Okay.
there's been, that's why everybody's here.
Okay. All right, good. Once, Jim, I'll call it.
You're welcome. Good evening, folks. You know, when you contemplate this, my name is Jim Williams. When you contemplate changing the code, please realize that this is a precedent-setting action. It's potential to really change the whole fundamental change of, you know, oh, that's not my phone, valued resources we have. Okay, so please bear that. Okay, please bear in mind that this is a precedent-setting decision you folks are, you know, looking at here. Could change, you know, the entire atmosphere on the beach if this is allowed to go forward. I'm really glad that you mentioned that the picnic area is off limits, and I notice this is a draft. So when you vote on it, could you please specify that? Okay, codify that. Thank you. Okay, and another question: how many surf schools are going to be allowed to operate in the village?
One.
And really, so it's a sole exclusive use of a public resource for one individual's business? Good luck defending that one in court. Okay? If this goes through, how are you going to deny other types of businesses? Same thing. I understand that you're saying that now, but someone wants to rent beach chairs, okay? If someone wants to do that, if you allow one thing, it's going to open Pandora's box. Not a pretty situation. Also, parking. With the application, like last year, we had a lot of issues with parents parking in the dunes, in the swamp, driving on the beach without permits. How are you going to address that? Parents want to watch their kids take lessons. That's a wonderful thing. If the village-owned beach, it's a village permit parking. How are you going to address that?
Village permit parking.
That's it. It will be enforced?
Yeah.
Excellent. And also, okay, you mentioned surf school, and they have private lessons. Will this also hold at the picnic area? Because last Sunday, there was a homeowner that had the surf school down there, multiple instructors, multiple students at the picnic area. Is that going to be off limits also?
That's the private property of the homeowner came and had people come to their private property to give private lessons to their children and their grandchildren and some of their friends.
Right.
It's no different than if you hired somebody to come to your backyard and have somebody do swimming lessons in your backyard with your kids.
Okay.
Or, you know, having a bouncy thing come.
Right. But that's a potential loophole, though, if a homeowner finds it in their heart to offer their private property for this operation to occur on a daily basis. That's a huge loophole.
It's, yeah.
Which we witnessed last Sunday, so.
Doesn't private property end at the
Wait.
tide line?
Okay.
We're gonna, if you want to speak, we're gonna do one at a time,
Okay.
please. Thanks.
All right, by making sure it's not happening at the picnic area that addresses my biggest concern, but there's a whole lot of other issues to consider. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Jim. Orange. Yeah. What's up? Please, Sonny.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm here tonight. My name is Marjorie Loeb, and I live on Meadow Lane. And I'm here representing the parents who have been have had their children in the surf school. My children have attended the surf school for 8 years. And you may ask why. When we moved to Southampton and we live on the ocean, I thought, well, you know, my children wanted to go into the ocean all the time, and they didn't realize how dangerous it was. So I happened to be passing by the surf shop, and I saw a brochure for a surf school, thinking that they would never put little kids on surfboards. And I signed them up, and I realized that this was one of the greatest gems and assets of Southampton. First of all, it creates an environment where locals, where people who are summer residents all come together in the most beautiful possible way, where they're learned about the safety of the ocean. It's not, yes, some kids learn to surf, other kids learn to swim, but my children have learned over 8 years how to protect themselves, how to deal with the ocean. It is by far one of the most important things that I think Southampton Village offers. There are not a lot of options in terms of camps. We can get into the whole legality. I'm not really sure where the picnic area ends, and we could have a very big discussion over where the exact line of the picnic area is and the extension of cars onto the beach, which we won't get into tonight, obviously. But the surf school has operated really independently of the ocean in the sense that they take the children to the place where there's a sandbar. It's really about where the sandbar is. So we've been in all kinds of locations. And whether this, committee ultimately, the law decides they have to be in one spot or they can go to different spots, they have been so respectful of the environment, of the parking. I mean, if we don't have a village sticker, we can't park there. I cannot tell you, for 8 years, I have been a parent, the safety, just the care of the children. This would be an unbelievable shame for the children of the village of Southampton to shut this down. And I don't understand what the problem is. And, the picnic area exists. We can discuss that for a long time if we want to. But surely this cannot be about some infringement of some area of the ocean, which, as someone just brought up, is free for everybody to use. And I don't know if there's any other thing you'd like me to say, but I just feel that everything that has been said to date is really not correct. It is not about making money. It is not about pushing kids. These are young children. A lot of the instructors do push the kids because they're not strong enough to paddle out. But this is a safety issue. They have taught the kids how to swim, how to deal with the ocean, and they've created a wonderful environment to, one, employ local kids and to create a completely homogenous group of both summer residents and local residents. And I think that would be an utter shame if it was not part of the fabric of this community. Thank you.
Yes, come on. Yeah.
I come sort of new to this.
Actually, just, if you'll just come up here.
My name is Paul Hunt. I live at 71 Halsey Street. Let me just write it down for the ease of the secretary. I think, I get the feeling as I sit here that this is a done deal, and that this is sort of a Potemkin hearing. But let me explain a few things. I've been summering in the Hamptons since 1945. I've been living here since in Southampton since 1979. I was a guard on Ponquag for 3 years. I was a guard at the surf club in Quag for 3 years. I walked the beach constantly. To the extent that you own land on the beach, it is a public good. It is an asset of the entire village. To the extent that you're going to take that public land and allocate it to a private, for-profit institution, which this is, I think you're making a grave mistake. I think it's a wrong thing to do in this town. Furthermore, as I look at the legislation, Provision G, which is intended to absolve the village of all liability, that's a farce. No plaintiff's lawyer who is worth his salt will be impeded by that. Unless there's decisional law, Rick, which says that works. It doesn't work. And I don't know it. I was a general counsel, and I mean I watched plaintiffs' lawyers run all over me in tort litigation, and many of my classmates from the Columbia Law School are terribly rich because they were very good at it. And I would think you are the deep pocket here. If somebody gets hurt, they're going to go right for the town, or the village, I should say. They're going to go right for the village. These people don't have enough assets, and their insurance is probably not good enough. I'm not going to argue too much about. I think this is a day camp. This is a day camp for rich kids. This is not. This is it's a babysitter. It's not teaching a lot of swimming. I don't know whether it teaches a lot of swimming or not, but this is something that should be, if it should be available to everybody, you ought to be doing it. If you think it's a public good, you, the trustees, should create a program under your auspices to do it and not lease it out to a private entity. And the final thing I would suggest is that you put a sunset provision on this law so that after a year or two, if they're not behaving, and I predict that they will abuse it, after a year or so, you will have to come back and revisit it once again. And the public and the people who are standing here to oppose it will have another hearing in which to discuss it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lillywhite. Tim, you're next. Go ahead, after.
Jack Lillywhite, 121 Toilsome Lane. I've already.
Yeah.
I have to do it for this. I'd just like to make a couple of personal observations. I put my son in this surf school this year, and he attended it for 5 days. By the way, it's a reasonable, in my opinion, and a reasonable price. I don't live in the estate district. I'm a life resident of Southampton. In the village, I thought this was a great chance for him to learn ocean swimming safely. Not just surfing, but also ocean swimming. There's not many opportunities. When I was a kid growing up, we used to have to go out the North Sea for the Red Cross for our swimming, but I don't remember having ocean swimming lessons available to anyone who wasn't a member of either the Bathing Corporation or the Beach and Tennis Club. And I don't even know if they gave ocean swimming lessons. I remember when Jake Buckheit was a lifeguard at the Bathing Corporation. And by the way, he was the first guy to surf in Southampton. And this was back in the, I believe it was the early 60s, the late 50s. I'm wondering if Jake, would offer sort of an expert opinion about the value of a surf camp and a surf school. In my opinion, there's some value there. And the value is in teaching kids to personally be safe out in the ocean. If the village was to run this, and by the way, that's your prerogative, I think you could do that very easily. But does that make the village less liable than it is currently? Or less liable if they had a licensee? And maybe the licensee has to provide a certain level of insurance, be bonded, a certain amount of guarantees to protect the village in the case that there is any extraordinary liability. I mean, that's done around the United States, public-private partnerships, licensing of facilities to private concerns by a municipality. I mean, this is nothing new. You know that, I know that. So my point here is that from my observation of the surf camp that my son attended, they taught safety first. And I think that's the most important thing. The second thing that I noticed was, and this is again a personal observation, was that when people dropped their kids off, they left. They didn't hang around. They weren't occupying parking spaces. They dropped the kids off. They made sure they were checked in. They had the right wetsuits, equipment, and so forth. I hung around a couple of times just to take pictures. I've got a Southampton Village parking permit, so no big deal. I'm exercising my rights as a village resident to park there. So I went out to the beach. I took photographs, watched the kids. Everything is done in a constructed, orderly manner. Safety first. And by the way, when they left the beach, there was nothing left, just footprints. There weren't any wrappers, there weren't any garbage, no traces that the kids had been there except maybe some drag marks of bringing the boards back. So I don't want to get into a difference of opinion with local surfers. By the way, I don't know how they learned. I don't know if you think it would be more valuable to have somebody initially teach you the proper way to enter the ocean, the proper way to deal with rip tides and currents. But I think this is a valuable asset, whether it's licensed by the village, if it's privatized through the village. I just think it's a valuable asset to make sure that our kids are safe when they're out there in the ocean.
Thanks.
Personal opinion.
Hi, Tim Berenger. I live at 242 North McGee Street. Mr. Lillywhite, you know who taught me how to surf? Jake Buckheit.
There you go.
Back in the 60s. And he didn't charge for it. And Michael, you probably remember that because you were down at the cut also. In fact, Jake gave me a whole bunch of his old wax the other day. You know, you've got a lot of people here tonight. The surf camp issue has galvanized these people, and this is great to see more people, come out. The surf camp's not the issue. That's a red herring. The real issue is commercial use of the beach. You know, and right now, you're going down a very slippery slope. You're going to open Pandora's box. Maybe a sunset clause would work. I don't know. But to me, it's the old thing, two phrases come to mind. Once the horse is out of the yard, you're never going to get him back in. And secondly, if you give them an inch, they're going to want a yard. And you give them a yard, they're going to want a mile. So I wish you'd be very careful with this law, and I'll talk about it in a proposal, and I'll talk about it in a minute. The use of the beach and access to it has, under the Dongan patent, has been to the U.S. Supreme Court 3 times and upheld. Now, the King of England gave us that right, so I think we kicked him out of here at one point, but that is still, we still have a right to access that. You folks, the town trustees, which is a different level of government, and the village trustees, you're the stewards of the beach. And you need to be very careful with what you're doing here, because this, like I said, it will open some real problems that I don't think you want to do. I mean, yes, you're the village, but the freeholders of the town of Southampton have a right to access the beach, and that's been upheld by the Supreme Court, New York, the U.S. Supreme Court. You know that over the years, we've come to you every year, actually, and asked you if you could please expand some of the picnic area to take some of the pressure off. You've said you can't do it because there's a lawsuit, and we don't want to jeopardize that. So giving a commercial license to use the beach doesn't, what happened to the lawsuit there? I don't get it. And I'll get to that. I mean, at least with this proposal, I see a couple holes in it. I would like you to, I'd like, if you could, it should be worded there'll be one camp. I don't know what you're going to do next year when you get 7 applications and you don't have that wording in here now. One location, I'd rather you identified it, but I know that's tough. An identified limited number of campers, so that there's no wiggle room here to say that he's not a camper or whatever. I see nothing about complying with the rules and regulations of the Suffolk County Department of Health, bathrooms, and also I see no regulations. I think if they're going to learn how to use the ocean, they should be taught by certified lifeguards. Okay, now to the law, the proposal, there's a couple of holes in it. 1A, the designated portion shall be a portion of the beach owned by the village of Southampton. I got a tax map that says you don't own to the water in a lot of places. I know the tax map.
In the picnic area.
What?
In the picnic area.
Well, yeah, as you go,
That's the picnic
we'll
area.
get to that in a minute, because as you go further east, the properties actually go to the water line, the property lines. And I have not been able to look at, maybe Fowler's are down in there, I don't know. But then down at F, it says, shall not be construed as authorizing any person to trespass upon real property. You got to look that up. You got to look out for that, because right now, from what I saw in the tax map, and I don't know how that has been getting by everybody, that the town actually, your ownership ends in a lot of places at the toe of the dune. And you can't, right here it says you can't authorize them to go onto private property. So think it carefully. I would hate to see this thing rush through tonight. I know there's a need for it. But again, Michael, you were a good surfer. I think I was pretty good. I got a couple pointers from Jake, and then I got bounced around and had to learn how to surf, and wasn't a bad way to go. Thank you.
You're dating me, Tim. Yeah.
Kathy.
I'm Kathy Thomas. I am a resident of Southampton at 2150 Meadow Lane. I've heard my residents brought up tonight. I didn't know that tonight was about the area in front of my home, but what I thought tonight was about a community-run business that is looking to extend or looking to get permission from the town to run their business on a beach in a proper way. Shane has worked really hard this whole winter trying to get a way to, basically last year his business exploded. And he has comprehensively looked at a way to lessen the impact on the beaches, to make this surf camp work. And I have to say, I've been involved with these guys for a while. People talk about the abuses of the surf camp. I have yet to meet a single employee of this surf camp that A, is not a local person, but B, is not only somebody that I trust my children with, but somebody that I want my kids to grow up to be like. And I think that penalizing a member of the local community for trying to grow a business and trying to expand a business is ludicrous. And I think that we should be supporting him and not trying to tear him apart. And as for what goes on in the beach in front from Road G on or from Road F on, I didn't know that that was on the table tonight, but I think that there are a lot of problems there. I'm not in the lawsuit, but I could be, and I think that that is something that should not be addressed in this forum, but that is something that is a separate issue. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Linda Riley, and I live at 5 Bower Drive in Southampton. And I just want to say that a couple of people have remarked about not allowing commercial businesses on the beach. And this is not a Pandora's box that you're opening here, because there are two things that I can think of that can only happen in the ocean, and that is learning how to swim in the ocean and learning how to surf. There is no other place to do this. Nobody wants to see peddlers on the beach. Nobody wants to see people, you know, walking up and down with trinkets or selling beach chairs or umbrellas or anything else. That's not what this is about, and you're not opening a Pandora's box to that. What we're talking about is allowing kids to learn safely and properly how to handle the surf and how to respect the beach, respect other people on the beach, and how to learn how to handle it all safely. It's also not about restricting access to the beach. The beach is a fabulous treasure for all of us. It's one of the great treasures of this community. And we have to find a way for it to serve everybody who wants to be there. Surfers want to be there, picnickers want to be there, people want to be there with their dogs, people want to fish. There are all sorts of competing interests to a certain extent, but it's your job to see that all of those interests can be accommodated somehow and that we can all sort of live together. It's not about restricting anyone's access to the beach. It's about allowing everybody to have some kind of access in a reasonable way. I also want to stress that it doesn't, to my mind, have to be one spot that is taking the brunt of this. Obviously, you want to keep it reasonable. Obviously, you want to have rules and regulations, which is fair and appropriate. Obviously, these people should be insured properly, which is appropriate. But if it's a different spot from year to year, if you move it around as the sandbars move, that makes a lot of sense to me. So that there isn't one particular area that's completely impacted. As it is now, you probably have an area of the beach that has become restricted to one use, that picnic area. You don't need to have a picnic area, a surf area. You know, it could be a little more fluid than that, and these regulations allow you to do that. So I just want to say, for the ocean swimmers and the surfing, and by the way, as to the point about, you know, in the old days you just went out and did it yourself. My son just went out and did it himself too when he was in 4th grade or something. I'm now proud to say that he's a surf instructor at the surf camp, full disclosure. And I'm a proud parent of a surf instructor at the surf camp. He's been working there for years. I know how hard they try to do this in a safe manner. I know that he's gotten training. And I think it's been a wonderful experience for him and for the kids he's taught. I know when people come from out of town, his cousins, nieces, nephews, the first thing they want to do is go down and take a lesson. And my brothers and sisters, the other cousins, the aunts and uncles, they don't necessarily feel comfortable anymore these days with just throwing a kid in the ocean. They want to know that there's some structure, that there's some responsibility there for how it gets handled. So I'd urge you to adopt this local law. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I'd love to speak.
Fran? I was waiting for you.
I know you're all waiting for me. Let me sign my name first. It's going to take a little while,
Yeah.
as you know.
That last name. Is the page wide enough for that?
Don't have enough ink in the pen.
Not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Fran Adamczewski. Lived in Southampton all my life. Homeowner in this village. Rich. as you know, growing up with Rich and all them guys. I just want to say commercial use of the beach, it's a tough call. You say you want to open it up for one camp. I know one person back there is looking, ready to get his paws on an application for this too. And I've come in and there's no application for a surf camp. The village has no application for a surf camp. How are you just going to turn it over and give somebody permission to have a surf camp on the beach?
Got to pass the local law, and then we got to put the parameters in place. Yeah.
Right, so it's going to take a while before you do that.
So,
And let's talk about privatizing commercial businesses like Chris Clark here giving lessons down at the beach. Now, are we like personal lessons? Is that commercial business? Is that a commercial entity for one person to make money off the beach?
Well, I mean, you could go back to personal trainers, and you could go back to
Right, are personal trainers allowed on the beach to give privatized lessons on the beach?
Yeah, fishermen, so.
Do they have to have a license?
No.
So they can violate village code?
Well, we're not gonna have the debate back and forth. So this is where the debate's gonna be at. So,
okay.
the discussion in the public.
And let's talk about safety.
Let's when I first was elected 8 years ago, one of the issues that we had around here was all the in the clam bakes that were going on.
Correct.
And the multiple operators that we had. They were going down to all the different beaches, and they were doing multiple events, and there was no. You go back to commercialization of the beaches.
Correct.
And all the people that were working down on these beaches, and they were doing it at all the road ends. They were all over the place. And what we did is we put a process in place that allowed someone to come in, apply for a permit, and then we were able to put some rules and regulations around the way it was going to be done, where it was going to be done, when it was going to be done. And today what we have a lot of successful people that are working that hire a lot of local kids that service the entire area out here. And it took us a couple of years to get to that point.
Okay.
And so what we have now is, we've got a surf school that's operated for a long time. And different things that have gone on. It's time for us now to evaluate this. Last year, it exploded.
Exactly.
And that's why we're all sitting in the room right now. You guys know. I mean, I go down to the picnic area myself. The last thing that I'm ever going to do is put something where I feel like I'm going to jeopardize my right to go down there with my family. Because that's the best day of the week for me.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So you put rules and regulations in place, date, time, place, location, and you do it in a way that is sets up safety, protects the safety of the kids.
What about everybody else in the water too? There's other people that are on the beach that are swimming. Last Sunday I was down there and one of the ladies that was getting a lesson washed up into the beach where somebody else was swimming with their kid, and the board almost hit the little kid. Now, there was no instructor. One of the instructors was running down the beach to help her out. In the meantime, the board's going every which way. There was another incident where a young man, must have been about 2 foot tall, on a 10-foot board, was halfway in between the beach and the waves that break, with the board upside down, screaming, "Help me, help me, help me. Somebody come and get me." Now the board is upside down with 3 fins. Another wave comes. This kid could barely hold on to this board. Another wave comes. Those fins are sharp, I know. I had many stitches from those things, believe me. And you need to really check into the safety, because there's a liability, because believe me, surfing could be really fun and surfing can be really dangerous. And the instructor wasn't even around. They were who knows where.
Yeah.
And I wear earplugs, and I heard this kid screaming.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. And it was one of your groups that was out there, and I felt bad. I didn't say anything, kept my mouth shut. But a lot of this is, and teaching surfing, the basic thing is to find a board that fits that kid, your size, be able to paddle that board, have control of that board. These kids are on 10-foot boards. They can't have no control. They get pushed in, and they're just floundering around. They're getting dragged around. I mean, they're not really learning how to surf. Let's put it that way. They're not learning how to surf. They're being pushed in. Learning how to surf is how to catch the wave, where that wave's going to break, how that wave's going to break, where to be on that spot, how to catch that wave. Somebody got pushed in front of one of my friend's wives 2 weeks ago, and the guy goes, "Oh, sorry, I didn't think you were going to make that wave." Now, she made that wave, and the other person was in front of her. What's going to happen? You're going to have a collision. Somebody's going to get hurt. It's bound to happen. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. You got to think about that, too. Safety. Safety is a big issue. I mean, surfing is fun. Surfing is dangerous.
That's the whole purpose behind why we're here.
Exactly.
Is to put the regulations in place.
And if you put
the guidelines in place.
The thing is, too, I understand these guys want to teach lessons. I have, no problems with that. But it's like when you bring a group of kids into other people that surf really well, it gets congested.
That's why we're going to designate an area that...
Yeah, but it's hard because you're going to designate a spot for them that doesn't even break. That makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's a hard call, it's your call. I mean, like I said, I think the village itself should be teaching swimming lessons and surf lessons and making the money themselves and doing it that way. That way there's no issues with anybody having any problems with anybody else.
Bill's gonna do the surf lessons.
Bill's gonna do the surf lessons? Yeah. All right. I could
volunteer.
Use
just volunteer. So.
All right. So
you brought that up. It was a good point. You brought that up at a prior meeting, and we've talked about that also.
I think that's the way to go. That way, it's.
Oh, it wouldn't be this.
It's law enforced by the village, and you wouldn't have to worry about how many kids are there, overseeing who's there, who's not there.
Well, you would have to worry about that.
Well,
you have to
guys,
make sure that
you guys got to worry about
yes,
that.
right.
Not me.
Thanks, man. No, it's something under consideration for next year.
And plus, I don't think one surf camp. I think there's other people out here. As soon as you open up that thing, there's going to be, people are going to come in here and want. I know guys from West Hampton that want to come here and give surf lessons. They already asked me if I would. I was like, no way, no way, no way. No, I'm not getting involved in any of that crap. No. So that's it.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Was.
Hi, my name is Christina Cuomo. Hi, Mr. Hatrick. Mr. Epley. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. I just wanted to reinforce the positivity that Surf Camp has provided our community, especially my son Mario, who is 7, and this is his 3rd year at Surf Camp, and he absolutely loves it. He learned to swim in the ocean because of Surf Camp. I think in the 11 or 12 years Shane's been operating his business, there haven't been any accidents, any lawsuits, and I haven't seen any accidents myself. I go to Surf Camp frequently. I often attend the entire session, and there is a licensed lifeguard, and the instructors are all very well trained. I take lessons myself because my son learned to surf, and I wanted to participate in that activity with him. I grew up in Southampton as a summer resident. Prefer to call myself that than a local, and I think that it's a wonderful pastime. So I just wanted to reinforce the positivity that Shane has brought to the community and to all the people here. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah.
My name is Sean Duell, 729 Sag Main Street. My concern is just what Richard was saying in the beginning. You spoke how it's prohibited now to operate a surf camp.
Are
You spoke about it?
Who are you asking? The
Yeah, I
attorney?
was, Mr. DePietris. What you said in the beginning, you were saying that it's prohibited now to operate a surf camp?
There's a provision in the existing code that prohibits commercial activity on the ocean beach.
Okay, so till tonight it's prohibited, and yet I hear from people that it's been going on for like 11 or 12 years here in the village and in the town as well. And I don't understand how, when you have clam bakes and other firework things, people need like special event permits, and why something like that hasn't been taken out for an operation like this. Or as far as if it goes into town, like why, if somebody can make money on the beach, why can't I see a little tax relief if I'm a taxpayer? I mean, I'm not a village taxpayer, so I'm not really asking for anything back from the village, but, you know, as far as it operating in the town, I mean, I know it's going on at Peters Pond right now, you know, and I'm just curious why you couldn't have to get a permit or something where maybe it could alleviate a little bit of stress on village residents or town residents, you know what I mean?
Well, again, with the, like, say, the clam bake permits that we put in place, right?
Right.
We don't look at that as a revenue generator that's gonna have an impact on tax relief, okay? We put the process in place because there were so many people doing it, and we said, look, we need to address it.
Right.
And that's why we're here tonight.
Right.
Is to start the process, to put a process, to begin the process of putting a system in place to control this activity.
Right, because I mean, there's definitely going to be more people that come along. I mean, Lars is going to come over and want MBX. You know, I mean, there's going to be extensions to the surf camps that want to go on. So,
well, I mean, it's you know, that's
it's
where
going to be hard to deny other people the same right.
No,
You
it
know,
won't.
really? All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Again?
Yeah.
For a second?
Yeah, come on up, Frank.
Fran Adamczewski again. I was talking to some government officials, and they said that if you permit one surf camp, you're going to have to permit another surf camp because it's, I forget what he said was a legal thing, but he said there's no way that you can give one, even if you write that, because you're discriminating on other surf camps that want to have a surf camp in the village. So your liability of getting sued by somebody else that wants to come in and do a surf camp, it's going to be on the village. You're going to get sued by somebody else that wants to come in and do a commercial business, surf camp on the business.
There's one operator at Cooper's Beach.
Well, that's you own that parking lot and the piece of property, right?
We have one operator there. And so we have a process in place.
Right.
To be able to allow multiple people to put applications in. And then we as a board vet those applications.
But you only.
And then we choose an operator for that.
Right, well, this is different than operating your Cooper's Beach.
It's not. It's not.
So.
That would be the process.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to regulate that? That's going to be tough because there's other people that want to come in. What if I want to have a surf camp? I'm a village resident.
You can put your application, but you know, I mean, it's,
Don't need
you
an
may,
application.
but.
There is no application, exactly.
Well, it's not at this point, but
Right.
you know, but we'll have the
Come in and get one, and
parameter.
there is none. I came here, and there is no application.
There is, you're right.
There's
There
no
is no
application
Right.
form. That doesn't mean, you don't have to have a form for everything you apply for. People apply for permission from the village board of trustees for all kinds of things all the time. There's not a form for it.
So I'm just going to come in and say, here's my,
You submit a
here's my
letter
application. I want to go.
setting forth
What do I need?
what you're asking for.
You have to put out what I need.
Let Rick actually
You
finish.
submit a letter setting forth what you're asking for, and the board looks at it and sees if it's sufficient or not, and whatever. You don't have to have an application form in order to be able to make an application.
But you should know what, if I come in for an application, I should know what I need to. It's like going for a building permit. I know you have to have certain.
Go to Suffolk County Department of Health, and it talks about summer camps. And it sets up all the guidelines of everything you have to do.
Summer camps, I know surfing for Suffolk County, you don't need anything. There's
Right,
no.
for a single sport,
But
you
if you're
don't.
running a day camp, you need.
If you do but
you need bathrooms, you need defibrillators, blah, da, 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 so on, so and so on, so on, so on. I mean, a surf school, they say, nah, you don't really need nothing. So there's no real license from a Suffolk County Health Department.
But there is no license, and they will not license a single sport entity. You're right.
Correct. Now, if he's teaching swimming lessons, that's another entity.
It's not.
I
not.
talked to the
Yeah,
Suffolk County Health Department. If he says if you're teaching swimming lessons, it's a whole different ballpark.
Yeah, okay.
So you might want to look into that too. If they're giving swimming lessons, you need a different license. You need a license actually to give swimming lessons from the Suffolk County. I looked into it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the whole different part. Surfing lessons, you don't really need anything. But if you're giving swimming lessons, it's a whole different ballpark. So that's it.
Okay, Frank.
All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.
My name is Luke O'Connor, 138 Edgemere Drive, Southampton, New York. I have been a proud surf instructor for 8 years, extra proud for the last 2. And I wanted to touch on, I wanted to thank the majority of you guys for keeping it as less personal as possible, even though it's very clearly this issue didn't arise until we were at the picnic area. The surf school wasn't exactly tiny the past 6 years. On the issue of safety, I'm going to go right back to what Fran said about a 10-foot board with 3 fins and a child screaming, "Help me, help me." That kid was with Todd, I believe, and he was screaming, "Help me," every time he was 2 or more feet away from Todd, and he was on an 8-foot board. So that's a whole nother issue. On the issue of safety, I mean, it's a no-brainer. We take little kids out in the ocean, we hold their hands. I have Ms. Cuomo's son with me every day for the last 3 years, and now I let him, he's 7.5, proudly, he's 7.5, and he jumps in the water, and I stand back and I watch him. When he asks for help, I'm right there, but he went from 5 years old, getting bashed on his back from waves, and literally can time waves now and can jump into the ocean by himself and calls for help when he knows he needs help and doesn't when he knows he doesn't. And I mean, that's a pretty good example for as a 7.5-year-old being able to enter and exit the ocean on his own and know when he needs help. And we teach the kids this is the sign for I need help, this is the sign for I'm okay when you're in a lifeguard zone, or anyone who's trained as a lifeguard. We have trained lifeguards on staff, people that were previously lifeguards, CPR, AED certified, first aid certified. On the issue of safety, that's just someone's throwing it out there. There's another grasp it. And I truly believe this issue is, it's obvious, it's personal. And it's obvious that the law needs to be amended and needs to be in place. And I support that, and I support the issue of liability on the village and the issue of liability on the surf school. And I just don't think that the safety of children in the ocean, as us being put on as irresponsible, is relevant to this, because it's not irresponsible. And I pulled 2 kids out of the water last year at Road G at the picnic area. The kids that were surf school students and just happened to be swimming. It was on a Sunday. It was actually, you might have not seen, but we walked on the beach in front of you. Fran saw me. He went to help. Luckily I had them covered, but we're there and we're there to help. And I wouldn't have been at that beach that day. Granted, they would have been pulled out by someone else, but that doesn't stand for every. He was there. Yeah, they would have been pulled out by him. He would have had an easier time doing it than me, too. But we're there, and we're there when other people aren't. We're there when people are and other people can help. But we teach kids, now we're teaching kids lifeguarding, saving techniques, and the trained lifeguards are doing it. So ocean safety is an issue here. Thank you.
Jim Williams again. I just want to make this really, really plain. Shane, it's nothing personal. I'm proud of you. I've known you since you were a little kid. You've done well. You've made a really good business. It's a wonderful thing to teach kids to surf. The issue comes when you start interacting with the general public. That's what the problem is, okay? Your instructors are all good-hearted guys, but I can't count the amount of times I've had kids thrown across in front of me, on top of me, and then getting lip from the instructor.
Hey,
I'm looking at you.
Jim,
I'm
Actually,
discussing this.
Yeah, you're
I'm discussing this with
me.
the board.
Okay, we're not going to have a back and
Okay.
forth, and I know you
I just wanted to
appreciate
say,
that,
yeah.
and thank you.
The interaction with the general public is where the issue was.
Okay.
It's not a personal thing.
Yeah.
A lot of times when the interaction occurred, there was some seriously bad attitude from the instructors, and Shane addressed that a couple of times. But that's it. As long as it's not in the picnic area, I think it'll be a whole lot easier on everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Mr. Lillywhite, and Jim, you'll be next.
I'd like to add one thing here, and Rich can probably help me out. You know, for 35 years, I did project financing, project development, including a lot of public-private partnerships around the world, including with municipalities. And I don't know exactly what the laws are in New York State, but there was some concern about multiple schools and so forth. You know, if you really wanted to do this, you could just provide a concession. Doesn't have to be a license. You can go out on the marketplace. You can get multiple bids. I understand there's another gentleman who wants to form a surf school. Fine, public enterprise. Be competitive. See what the market brings. We're a free market economy, at least we still are. Why not see what the free market can bring on a concessionary basis? Doesn't have to be a licensee basis with multiple licenses and multiple companies competing against each other, running sort of roughshod all over the beaches. You can dictate this. You can make this a concession, and you can put it out for bids. And whoever has the best bid, the best bonds, the best liability insurance, the best performance fees that are paid back to the village for this particular kind of a concession, they win. And the concession can be timed. It can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. You can have renewal programs and options in there. And it's something that I would really suggest if there's some concerns about multiple businesses doing the same thing, you might want to control it through a concession.
Turn it over, no room. All right. Jim McLaughlin, 789 Hill Street, Southampton. The question here isn't about safety, liability, any of that stuff. You know, what you're doing is you're taking our public resource. This is what we live here for. Okay? I don't live here because, you know, this is the only place in the world I want to be. This is one of the only places in the world I can drive down to the beach. I can go fishing until December. I can start in March. I like being here. And now you're taking the one reason why I really like being here, and this is just the first step. This is the pinprick that draws the first drop of blood of commercializing the beach. When you do it, you're saying, well, it's the only place it can happen. Well, yeah, you're right, it is. And unfortunately, so are a lot of other activities. You know, what if somebody wants to open a beach volleyball camp? The operative word being beach. You're going to license a stretch of beach to them to do that? Because that's next. You can't tell them no once you've started. You know, a very smart person once quoted that said, when government engages in business, it tends to be run like it's nobody's. You ought to burn that into your brain. Take a minute and think about that, because you're engaging in business. You may be the village board, the village trustees, but when you license a single entity, a single entrepreneur to do something, you, in fact, are getting married. It's a partnership. Don't deny that. You're not changing the village code. You are creating a partnership, and you, doing this, are making me a partnership in an endeavor like this. And this doesn't end here. You know, what if some local resident wants to do massages down at the beach? They have a little portable massage table. They can set up a tent. Who are you to tell them they can't do it? It's the environment. It's nice and serene and relaxing. I don't need to play a tape recording of the wave crashing because it's right 2 feet away. Are you going to shut them down? They're entrepreneurs. They're just like Shane. You might get a little antsy when they start having 25 massage tables. How about a guy with a flatbed and a village parking permit who decides to drive it down to Cooper's and rent his own personal chaise lounge off the back of that? He'll hire a couple of high school kids and be down there renting chaise lounges. That's his own personal stuff. Or he brings a cart down with 40 boogie boards and starts getting them for, you know, $5 for a couple of hours. You gonna shut him down? It's the only place that can happen. There's no need to rent boogie boards in North Sea. So you, by doing this, saying, well, it's the only place it can happen, there's a lot of things that can only happen down there. And you're opening this door, and it's dangerous. I told you this at the last meeting, and this draft that you've put out looks like a foregone conclusion, and you say, well, it's just a surf school and ocean swimming lessons. It's not. It's everything else that happens down on the beach. You know, you say, oh, years ago we did clam bakes. Well, now we've gone from clam bakes, one night, one event, and an event permit to a season-long license. So, you know, you think you're shutting the door on this thing. You're not. What you're doing is you're removing the lock and leaving the door open. There's no way to close it again. So be very careful. You're not just permitting a surf school here, and I got nothing against you, Shane. I got no problem with what you do. I think it is a good thing. I think you run a good surf school. But what I don't want is my community turning into the Jersey Shore or Siesta Key with vendors walking down here. I got some pictures for you. You can. This is what happens when this happens. You get volleyball camps. You get chaise rentals with little cabanas. You get jackasses walking down the beach selling bikinis off hangers on an umbrella. Other things like that. And you get, oh, people walking down renting chaises and boogie boards, hats, sunglasses. You're going to have to shut them all down. You're going to burn more resources chasing people like this than you ever will gain in money.
You already do.
It's not worth it.
You already do. We're already chasing those people.
I know that. But the thing is, now you're permitting one use on the beach. Where's your standing to say, no, you can't do that?
The clam bakes have been going on for forever.
That's right.
Okay? And
They do. They file a permit for a clam bake.
And
a clam bake.
That's what we did. And so we looked at it and we said, this has been going on for forever. Let's develop a process behind that.
That's right.
So that we have, and that's the whole purpose behind this.
Well, how do you get to say no to the next guy who wants to do massage, and they only want to have 25
you get to say
tables?
No, because the village code specifically identifies the search.
Yeah, but then you're discriminatory because you're stifling entrepreneurial spirit.
I would disagree with you on that.
And it's very dangerous doing that.
I disagree with you.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
What's that?
You will see this again in the future.
We see it today. We see it all the time.
But they keep selling more and more, and then every time
We see it all the time. We see it all the time. We have vendors that come down. We have people that want to do all sorts of stuff.
Hi, my name is Eldon Scott, and I'm at 70 Little Plains Road. And I just wanted to speak really specifically to the law, because I run a concession in New York City in the Parks Department. And there was recently a challenge. It's a restaurant at Union Square Park that I'm indirectly involved with. So it just recently went to state Supreme Court, and the rule is that if it's a revocable license, that the municipality or the town is allowed to do what they want. So it was upheld by the Supreme Court, and there was the other rule is that it has to be a use that could not be done in another location, and it has to be revocable. So that's recent information as of about 2 months ago. So I just wanted to address the ability of the town to limit the use, and they have that ability. So that's all. Thanks.
So, anyone else? And Matt.
Well, this is to specifically address the gasps in the room when I mentioned people getting pushed into the surf down there. 90% of surfing is being able to swim in the ocean and protect yourself, and to understand the waves, like Franny said, where to be, how to catch them, be strong enough to catch them. There's a code of surfing. If somebody gets up, you don't go in front of them because it's dangerous. There's no way to get out of the wave once you're riding it. And people coming over the top of the wave in front of you is what spurred this whole thing, because they came down to where all the locals surf, and we have a personal code down there. If you're not following the etiquette of surfing, then you get out of the water. Well, whenever we approached the surf camp with the fact that they were breaching surfing etiquette by dropping in on everybody, there was a lot of bad words going back and forth. Basically, you know, we had no right to say anything. They're there. The problem is not on the beach with the surf camp, but it's once they get in the water. They admitted that they're putting people on boards that can't swim or can't protect themselves, can't surf. They need someone to swim over and get them. So you got two issues. Once they get in the water, there's a whole nother world beyond the shoreline. And this camp, you know, despite all the pros that everybody was talking about, how great they are, this is why we're here trying to defend this. I have in my hand a copy of the minutes from the town trustees meeting from May 6th. Fred Havemeyer did as you did and tried to make a resolution to create one surf camp at a town-owned beach. Now, he wanted to do it down at the cut, the Mecox cut. So, quoting from the minutes of the meeting, Trustee Havemeyer added that his concern is if the village, meaning Southampton Village, closes down the surf school at roads F and G, the picnic area, and if a break occurs at Flying Point, that small area will be overwhelmed. This is a legislative body drawing up legislation to prevent what we've been dealing with down at the picnic area for the last 2 years. So it's not just me, I'm not making this up. You got Trustee Havemeyer, quote again, told everyone that he just wants to legitimize the camp and not have a free-for-all, quote, end quote. He wants to safeguard this area from being barraged by hundreds of kids. 2 years of hundreds of kids. And the problem is, as a money-making business, once you start making money, they want to make more money. So that's why there's hundreds of kids there, because, hey, you got money per kid. So limiting it would be smart. One more thing, Trustee Warner said that this area has always been self-regulating, meaning Mecox. They're talking about the camp moving down there. But we don't want the circus that is at roads F and G down at Mecox. So I had to specifically counter all the positives that make this camp seem like it was nothing and whatever. But had to bring that up.
All right. Anyone else would like to speak on this?
I just have a question.
Actually, just come to the, just identify yourself. Sign the sheet, thanks.
My name is Hank Sinkle. I live at 30 Woolley Street. But my niece went to the surf camp. Excuse me? Oh, we're out of space here. My niece went to the surf camp for 2 weeks last year, and I can say that I didn't see any kid there who couldn't swim. And if there were kids who had a problem swimming, they weren't allowed past their knees. But I never saw hundreds of kids. Now, this was at the last 2 weeks of August, but my recollection is maybe tops 50, 60. And I can say there was one instructor for every 3 kids. My niece loved it. And there's no texting, there's no cell phones. I mean, when we live in an era where we're so worried about kids spending all the time doing stuff they can't, to see kids doing what we did as kids, just being on the beach and having fun, I think there has to be some resolution. I understand people who want to enjoy the picnic area. There is one place to surf, so I don't know what the solution is, but I hope it doesn't become adversarial and we come up with a good solution.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, come on up here. Okay.
I would just like to clarify certain points since I've been part of the surf school. My children are part of the surf school. Lukey, who was a very young 15-year-old, taught my son how to surf marking for many years. And I just would like to correct certain things. We've never had an issue until it was at Road G. And it should not be about the picnic area. Whatever the issues are there, and there are many issues, I mean, the rate for the school to operate has got to be independent of what the picnic area wants. If they're experienced surfers and they don't like kids there, the ocean is a free place, and there is a code with surfers, whatever that code may be, but it doesn't mean they have more of a right to those waves and that sandbar than our kids do, okay? And I think the school has been extremely respectful of the local residents, homeowners, and it's never been, I mean, maybe in August gets a little crowded and it's maybe maximum 50 kids. Shane has split the camp up into different areas purposely to mitigate any kind of problems, but to say that they own that sandbar at Road G is not right. And to say that they have unsafe practices after all these years of operating without a problem, we are parents. I mean, Christina came up here. Lukey is now teaching her son. I mean, I have had every instructor work with my children, and never in 8 years has the school have been disrespectful of the local residents, disrespectful of the beach, created any kind of hazard environment, interrupted any other surfers in an inappropriate way. It is only since it's been at Road G, and I want to know, is Road G considered the picnic area, or is that the borderline?
It's considered.
But is the ocean the ocean? Do the picnic area own the ocean? That's what I just want to understand that. Is the ocean in front of the picnic area? Do they have any more rights? Do you have any more rights than anybody else? I mean, no, really, I want to know. If the surf school children end up in the ocean and happens to be in front of the picnic area, is that any, forget the legality of whether it should operate, because obviously that has to be decided in whatever appropriate way you have to decide that. But even once that's decided, who's to say who gets the right to that sandbar? And by the way, the surf school operates from 9 to 12 during the week. I think there are some private lessons on the weekend. So I want to know how much of the picnic area, what's the problem from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday?
It's a lawsuit.
There's what?
There's.
It's one day, or before the.
Time out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Hey, time out.
let's exclude holidays. Okay, Shane, I'm sure would agree to that.
Oh.
Won't go near the picnic area on a holiday. I mean, like, that's ridiculous.
No, let's, because there's an active lawsuit down there. So what we're trying to do is, you don't want a commercial activity taking place in the picnic area, period,
Because of the lawsuit.
in that area. So, okay. And that's the purpose behind what we're trying to accomplish, is to put a system in place to allow this type of activity to occur and control date, time, and place, and put the standards in place.
Right. I think that all makes sense. The problem is the sandbar decides where it's going to be. Like, God did not create the sandbar, unfortunately, in front of where do we used to go all the time.
But the other
Yeah.
piece is part of the issue is that the camp is a victim of its own success, and we didn't have this discussion a few years ago because truthfully there was probably 10 or 15 kids going to the camp.
But that's really not true, because I was there, and it always was busy in August, but it was not by Road G. It wasn't by the picnic area.
Not at the same level, though.
But hasn't it always followed the
I
same
don't know. I mean, to be straight, they used. I mean,
my understanding is
it's gotten that much bigger. But also, there was 2 camps when we used to go. There were like 2 camps, and you never even knew there were 2 camps. There was Vinny and Shane, and like you went to either one.
What you're saying and everything that you're talking about right here reinforces the fact that what we're trying to do is put a system in place that puts the guidelines and says this is the way it's going to operate, and this is where you're going to do it at. This is how many kids you're going to have. This is when you can do it. This is how you're going to do it. These are going to be, you're going to have license in place. You got to meet everything what Luke was talking about with lifeguards, certified life, AED, all of that stuff has got to be put in place. And
Right.
it's truly about developing a safety policy around it.
I completely agree with everything you said. I just think the tricky thing becomes location.
Well,
Because if
I mean,
there's no
that's-
sandbar, there's no surf. And that's the only thing that, unfortunately, the sandbar is in a place that is disputed at the moment. You know, when it moves over to, you know, I don't know how sandbars work. Can someone do something about a sandbar? I'm just kidding. But I completely agree, but I do want to just say some of the facts people have said are just downright wrong, and they don't know, and they haven't been involved with the surf camp, and they haven't seen it in action. And I just want you to know that they really take the safety of the children, and it is the only vehicle to really teach our children how to be safe in the ocean. So, okay.
Okay. Look.
Luke O'Connor. On the issue, on the draft, on the issue of restricting a specific area, that would create a safety issue if it was one specific area that was restricted for however long surf schools were given to operate. Based on, as Mrs. Loeb was saying, if there's no sandbar, then it's just kids crashing into the sand, which is what we've been trying to avoid, which is why we move beach to beach when appropriate and when necessary. So keep that in mind when it gets redrafted, that while it makes sense that to put it in one area, to designate that area to keep us out of the way of other people, it also creates a safety issue.
Well, this doesn't designate a beach here. It
Oh,
allows the
I'm
village
sorry.
board-
What the people-
this
some people were
doesn't-
saying.
This allows the village board of trustees to designate the location, date, time, place, all of that stuff. That's what this does.
So it allows for changing a beach location. I thought it meant that, like, once it's finalized, it's one
Well,
location.
No, the way,
Not
the
necessarily.
way the code changes, it allows us to, on an annual basis, designate where it would happen.
Are you asking if it would change throughout the season?
No, I just mean specific. Usually from summer to summer, there'll be a sandbar in one place. But yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
That's it. So, okay. All right. Any other comments from the board? You gonna say, Mike?
Tim, you know, I have a pretty long history of surfing. And Fran, years ago, we used to go from Southampton, would paddle across to Threes, which was a little break on the inside, and it was a terrific left. And yeah, and the Hampton Bays boys did not like the Southampton boys. So, you know, this issue has always been, and it's really an issue of density. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about density. Clam bakes were fine until they became too intense. Surf camps are fine. Your success was really the cause of all this problem. I'm a strong proponent of kids being taught to surf. I'm a strong proponent of kids being taught to swim. I mean, that's what we're about here. We're about the ocean. We got the most beautiful beaches in the world, and again, surfing. I've traveled to a lot of different countries and surfed, and there is no beach like Southampton, period, anywhere I've ever seen. So the best way to control density is to regulate it. I mean, that's an unfortunate thing. And the intended, I think, of this board is to regulate it in a manner so that the kids can learn. People aren't infringed. Their rights on the beach aren't infringed. Does it bring in additional, you know, umbrellas and rentals and carts and stuff? No, it doesn't. Because if it's worded right, you can have the trustees decide what event's going to take place. And certainly surfing is a terrific sport. And I think that although you guys don't really want to see regulation, nobody wants to see regulation, it may be your best choice of controlling a situation, because if you don't regulate it, who's going to say that a guy's down on the beach with 8 kids, 10 kids, and you have 20 of them down there doing the same thing, aren't running surf camps on the QT? And it's probably already out there. This way it can be controlled. This way we can designate where they go, and we can review the surf breaks, because they do shift. And nobody wants to put you in some, straight wall break in the steep beach. And I think it's one of the smartest ways to control the situation.
Rich?
I mean, the benefit of having anything taught about safety is clear. I have issues with the specifics of the implementation of it and the enforcement of it, which is all the points that have been brought out by most sides tonight. I do have questions about if we choose one, like you brought up a good point. And all this other crap, as it's been called, there are ways to restrict that, and we will have the ability, and we do currently have the ability, and we do exercise the ability to say no to that stuff. As the mayor said, there are many times people come either formally in front of us or into Village Hall and ask to do the very things that have been brought up here tonight, and we very emphatically say no to it. So, but it is, I understand the slippery slope comment about allowing other commercial, but we've gone down this road before. And I think also what should be recognized here is the law that exists about no commercial enterprises on the beach. I believe was written in the 70s. Is that what it said, Rick? You don't have to. I think it was in the 70s.
Might be the 80s. I don't.
Oh, so, okay. So I mean, I don't know why that was, because a lot of times when I'm looking at, anytime we have to look at a code or a law, I look at when it was first written, and if it was at that time amendment or was it something brand new. Laws and codes are written all the time. Some are enforced a little more strongly than others. It's like anywhere. I believe, Matt, you were bringing up, somebody else says, how was this allowed to exist for all these years? If there's something that's deemed a public good, meaning learning how to teach somebody to do something properly, the private side of it, put aside. But to answer that question, somebody asked it before, how is something just allowed to continue? One, because it, in a sense, flew under the radar because it served a public good. Until, as I told you to your face, Shane, as Trustee Irving just said, your success did you in. So you and others that actually operate and continue to operate on smaller levels were able to do so because, as pointed out by most people here tonight, they were providing a public good. They were teaching anybody, one person who learns how to properly behave, swim and act in the ocean, that will prevent an accident or a death from happening. That's a good thing. It's irrefutable. So that's why things like this have been allowed to continue for as long as it has, flown under the radar. If somebody was attempting to sell umbrellas at all the beaches, that would not have continued to happen for all these years, because that is not for public good, and that would be pretty gross. We do allow that at Cooper's Beach. It's regulated. One spot it's allowed by us, by Cooper's Beach. But that's just about that stuff. And somebody brought about how you're going to choose one person. Again, that's how we operate Cooper's concession. We put bids out, and we choose one. No, that's what I'm not sure exactly how we're going to go about choosing the one person here, if that's going to be through a bidding process. I mean, I think that needs to be discussed, or we just choose, or what have you. I don't know how that's going to happen. I think a good question that's raised is not just who gets designated, but all the private ones, the singular ones that are doing a few people from here and there. I do think that is a valid question brought up. You know, where do we go? How do we enforce this? Where do we stop enforcing? I don't have a question. I don't have an answer for that yet. But it has to start somewhere. You know, accommodations have been made. You know, whatever this was written for, when it was written, there was a reason for it. I don't know what it was. I wasn't around. I could assume maybe at one point it was to protect the village interests and the surrounding residents at Cooper's concession, because that's the only real enterprise, to use that word for lack of another word, that exists at the, you know, on the beach. in addition to the clam bakes. That was the thing that, again, it was just understood, it happened. That became a very successful enterprise. We had to regulate that. We didn't regulate it to get rid of it. We regulated it to monitor it, make sure it was done properly and safely. And that's where this comes to this, surfing. School, surfing camp, surfing school, what have you. Hell, we even made Shane go to Suffolk County Department of Health. And they even said he didn't need as a surf camp. You mentioned something before, Franny, about what the Suffolk County, what they have the word to say. In his application, he wrote the several things that he does at his camp. He has a letter saying that they don't, it's not under their purview. That's what he handed to us. So that was a bit of a, I'll almost admit I was kind of hoping they would have stepped in and made a little decision helping for us, and even the county. And that's with the packet he returned. So I was kind of hoping that would have settled that a little bit, but even they said, you know what, they admitted that what he's doing, or any surf camp, they viewed the surf camp or anything under that surfing water activity to be a singular thing. So they even absolved themselves of wanting to get involved and monitor that. I was actually hoping to fall back on that a little bit to save me a little bit on the board, but they even said no. But that's from a letter we received that I saw. Now, I don't know, have you appeal back to them and go back? I don't know. But that's where my part of this whole decision goes, is what do we do? But having a split room every meeting is not a solution. Somebody has to do it, and that's what we're here to do, like it or not, whether I like it or not. And it's got to start somewhere, as Trustee Irving said. We have to allow it somehow. We just have to monitor it. You brought up a good point, Fran, about actually having a village do it. Funny you mentioned that, and somebody else said it. And that's what exactly we were discussing before we came in. That's not something we can flip the switch and start tomorrow. But maybe this is the impetus to doing something like that. And maybe it is hiring a private contractor to do so. I don't know. But this is one of those things that, meaning a surfing camp and school and boarding and all those things that have been around for a little while. It's, again, we're here in this split room because of, it ended up in a location that just is hallowed ground and embroiled currently in a lawsuit. So we got to be careful what we do and do not allow. So my thoughts, sorry I'm rambling, but is, again, how we're going to choose the one camp, how that's going to go about, the one beach. Is it just going to be one beach and stay, or is it going to move around each season based on where that sandbar is? And if that's the case, are we alleviating any stress, or is it just regulating that stress? I don't know. But those are just some points I have as far as that.
You have to watch yourself with the homeowners if, like, you move your camps around.
Well, that's part of what I'm alluding to. I think the moving around part.
That's pretty much why we are here, because.
Well, the law specifically states that it's got to be village beach. You can't be on private property. So it's, I mean, when Rick wrote that, they addressed that situation, so.
Can I ask you a question? Did you put forward a spec that had to be met for this application?
No.
Then why did Rich just say that I sent Shane to Department of Health?
We had
in order to do this?
Because we did.
Was there a standard that needed to be applied to?
What the mayor alluded to, we did have a meeting. Part of this is all part of, this isn't come to this point. He did approach us to kind of, I would imagine, to avoid all this happening, as was happening last year. And we sat down and said, okay, if you're going to do this going forward, there's many things. And he had been to the town, all the trustee meetings that you all alluded to. And they're in the same, Havermont, you quoted, we met with him. What was the comment? Your own.
We met with Havemeyer and town attorneys back in the fall on this.
This is your limit.
Oh, yeah, it's something, I don't know, I can't remember what it was.
So they're in the same, as East Hampton, everybody's in the same boat trying to figure out what to do with this and how to go forward. Not many, as you said, are, if they're afraid if somebody makes a move and starts making some steadfast regulation, then maybe that spills over to them. And that's what I think Fred was alluding to. Oh my God, if we do this, now they got to worry about it. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But it's a tough thing everybody's looking at. So when we sat down, we said, okay, perhaps, because it had been brought up in the past, Suffolk County Department of Health, they should have something to say about this. So I said, fine. Sent him out there. Actually, it was a website. Told him to look at the website and the paperwork and said, check this out. He went, I believe, and applied and filled out the paperwork as we had instructed him to do, requested him to do. And again, he came back, and the paperwork, from when I looked through it, specified all the things, the surfing, the training, and all that, people in it, the amount of people, I believe. And the letter came back, from what I saw from the packet that was returned to us, from the Department of Health, from this person saying that, thank you for your application, but we don't really need it for this particular, how it was. So we didn't set any parameters at the time, but what the mayor and I and the board, we were trying to get ahead of this, because this was back in the winter we did this, or early spring, something. So we were trying, because we knew this was going to happen. Well, obviously, we know what happened last year before, so we were trying to get ahead of it and trying to figure out the best way to mitigate this, to possibly regulate it. And that's where, in my opinion, that's why I said I was trying to incorporate the service of the county to make my job, speaking for myself, a little easier when it came down to make a decision. He shows us the letter that says you didn't need to come to us in the first place, me and the county. I was like, oh well, now it's back on us again. And well, here we are. So, but, so that's to answer your question about that.
Yeah. Nancy?
I think this is certainly an interesting decision that we have to make. You know, we live in a community that's surrounded by water. We don't have a school that has a swimming pool to teach anyone how to swim. There's been private swimming lessons all over this town. People allow their kids to, obviously they want them to take it. Not everyone has a family member that can teach them how to swim in the ocean. I mean, my son grew up, his father taught him how to swim in the ocean. He was body surfing by the time he was 6 years old. And he has, you know, a complete respect for it, and he's a great ocean swimmer. But not everybody has that, and we live by the ocean, and people need to learn how to swim in the ocean. In addition, you know, Evan took classes with Mr. Butler on rough ocean swimming. So he took him out there in the ocean when it was rough to teach him how to swim. You know, surfing is a great sport, and I believe that our children should be able to learn that, but I also think we have to regulate it. I think there's a lot of teachers that are teaching out there. They're probably teaching private lessons. This is a school, it's different. Private lessons are a totally different thing. You take 1 or 2 kids, you bring them down, you rotate that. But this is a school, and one man just said here, 60 students were down there, and you had teachers for every 3 students. I mean, that gets it up there to quite a number of people on that beach. I can see where people would be upset about that. I mean, maybe you need to have smaller classes if in fact you're going to do this, or whoever's going to do it. I'm not just saying you, whoever's going to do it. I think it's something I would like to see happen in the future, because I think it benefits our community and it benefits our children. And even adults could take classes with you. I'm all for a class, but I think it has to be regulated.
Bill?
I just have 2 questions listening to all the comments from the public. One is the practicality of having a surf school. You know, I know we're thinking of certain locations, and it sounds like a sandbar is the sine qua non of surfing. And if the sandbar, if we pick a spot that's fine with us, or least objectionable from a standpoint of irritating our public, but the sandbar is a mile away, does a surf school become a practical matter? Is that do you have to have that sandbar? And you know, you brought it up, something I wouldn't have known, that you've ended up down at the park camping area because of that. And so are we going to end up in a corner because we've picked a spot that's fine with us but isn't good for surfing? And the only other question I have is, because I know Jake Buckeye, that's as much as I know about surfing. and Joe Butler was my brother-in-law. What do you do when the surf is nasty? Because God knows, I know that that happens, and I just worry about the danger. And do you just, somebody's paid for a week's surf school or 2 weeks of surf school, and then if the ocean is nasty, do you still have surf school? And or if it's nasty 3 days in a row or something like that? And I just simply don't know the answer. Those are my two questions.
I don't know the answer to either one of those questions.
I know the answer to both. I can tell you as a parent that any day that the surf was too rough, camp was canceled. Sometimes we would do beach activities and, just stay right at the edge of the water. But I would say the majority of the time, camp was canceled, and Shane would call everybody and basically say, there's no camp today, and maybe we'd make it up a different day. People pay sometimes by the week or the day, but basically, we would just make up the days, or maybe he would run it on a Saturday morning to make it up. If it's raining and there's no lightning, we have camp. If it's very rough, we do not have camp.
It also depends on the skill level of the students too. We are surfing, and surfing gets more challenging when there are waves. So certain more advanced kids, we look forward to the swell coming up. And at the same time, when they are strong swimmers and so on and so forth, they do learn the most during those. There's certain riptides going on and this and that, and they actually get the most experience when there's waves coming in. If they are unfit and dangerous, by all means, we are not going in the water.
You can understand my concern just from the liability, because I think, I have known of some bad accidents in the village over the many years that I've been here. So, but the other thing is, are we going to have the misfortune to pick a beach and then they come and say, well, you've got that, we got the ocean part, but without the sandbar, it simply doesn't work. And
Irving should be on that committee because
we're working at the spot now, which at high tide doesn't break at all, but at low tide it does. So every other week we're getting a little bit more. And we're just kind of working with what we have to avoid harassment to my clients and the children and parents by certain individuals. Absolutely harassment.
Well, we're not gonna.
But
we're not. We just.
We don't want to bring that up.
We're not gonna go. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Shane brings up a good point. Breaks do, even if you've got a sandbar, the tide has a lot to do with it. And that changes every day, so it is a moving target.
But the camp time doesn't change.
But if we have a little bit of a sandbar, we'll work with it.
Might as well, Matt, go ahead. We've broken all the protocol here anyway, so yeah, go ahead.
The problem arises that the waves break on a certain point. It's called a point because that's where the wave jacks up and you go left or right. So it's a limited space. Not only the picnic area is a limited space, but then take a 100-yard stretch of that where the wave is actually breaking. They decided to bring the camp to the point. And it's a limited resource. And the code of surfing is if you're on the wave, on the point, nobody else should be going on the wave. The surf camp continued to push the big boards down on the faces of waves to the point where I actually heard the guy bragging about how many people he angered that one day when the waves were 5 or 6 foot tall. Waves that I never thought of swimming in until I was in my teens. And these kids, they don't belong out there. You don't take a new skier and put them on the double blacks on top of the mountain. And that's something that they don't understand. Because they're getting paid to...
Okay, all right. We're talking about the, Charlie's back there going, he can't hear anything anybody's saying. So what we're talking about is amending the village code. Location, date, time, place, all of that stuff. I'm going to defer to I'm not a surfer. I fell off a board once in Hawaii, so, and then they asked me not to. They said, get your fat butt off this and go somewhere else. But we're just talking about putting a regulation to avoid everything that we dealt with last year. 60 kids down there is too many kids. Down at the picnic area, not appropriate. Okay, because of all the lawsuits and everything, and controlling daytime Monday through Friday and 9 to 12. Most people are working during those time frames, so That's what we're trying to do, and putting some regulation in place that allows an important activity, because we're a resort community or beachside community. I do believe that this is something that we should have, but it shouldn't interfere with. I get it. I can only imagine having kids trying to learn how to surf and then experienced surfers and everybody fighting for that break. I get it. I wouldn't want to be an experienced surfer and then have young kids cutting me off. I understand that. And if we can do this, we set this in place and set the guidelines in place and say, this is how the game's being played, and that's the way to do it. And you limit size, you designate the location, and you designate times. And that way, if it rains on a Tuesday, it doesn't spill over into a Saturday, because those are the rules. And that's what we do. So, I mean, I've been a supporter of this for a long time, and I respect the positions of everybody here, and I think this has actually been a very good debate. And I have to really give a lot of credit to everybody in this room, because it could have gotten personal in a lot of ways, and it didn't. And for the most part, we stuck to the facts here. We did a nice job as a community. So I want to thank you guys for that. So, does anybody else have anything else to say about this public law here? Jim?
Will we have a public hearing to discuss the rules and regulations to be adopted?
I'm going to actually have to defer to my attorney on that.
No, I think it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to approve this change to the village code. What I'd like to do is have the opportunity to have public comment on the rules and regulations regarding this change. So you will have input from us, not from you, but input from us regarding the numbers, the times, the volume, the locations, things like that, because those are really going to be what's going to have an impact on our lives here and how we enjoy the resource that we all have.
Well, I think this public hearing process, and over the last year, we've gotten so much feedback from so many different people. I think we have a pretty good understanding of what we're looking for here. Rick,
what you're thinking right now?
What am I thinking? I'm thinking 20 kids, Flying Point, Monday through Friday, 9 to 12. Sorry, not Flying Point. Wrong beach. Sorry. Sorry. Oh yeah, Fred. Fowler's Beach on the village side, and that's 20 kids, and that's what I'm thinking right now. The board may vote for less, but in my mind, it would not be any more. I don't think 60 kids in an area right there with 20 instructors and parents watching. When you put 100, 120. There's too many people down there. There's too many opportunities for somebody to get injured. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line. When you reduce the number, you have a small group of people. You have a greater student teacher ratio, a smaller number there. You have limited times. You don't have a lot of people down there. That's what I think are the greatest opportunities. So that's, in my mind, I know that Rick has said, we need to, he brought up in an earlier meeting even about sponsorships. So I want to make sure that that there's no sponsorship opportunity. You don't want to walk down there and see a Quicksilver sign or something like that on the beach where all of that, you can restrict all of that stuff in it. So there's been a lot of great points that have been put up here, and we don't want to see, guys walking up and down the beaches selling bikinis. You don't want to see any of that stuff. So, but I think that we've got to put this together and then come back. But it won't be a public hearing on that. Rick, do you want to make the process?
Well, you're not required to have a public hearing on it.
Required to have a public hearing.
You've already had a public hearing on the law, and the law invites input on all the restrictions that you've been talking about.
Yeah.
So that's up to you, but you're not required to.
Yeah. So, okay.
One thing you had spoken about is your quality
And also,
of life.
let me just add one other thing. Just like with the outdoor sidewalk dining rules and regulations, the rules and regulations relating to the special event permits, et cetera, they can be changed at any time by resolution of the Board of Trustees. So if something that you initially adopt as rules, regulations, or restrictions, if you determine later that that should be changed, or that you forgot, or there's some additional restriction that should be put in at any point in time, you can adopt a resolution adding that rule, regulation, or restriction, and it would apply. And the license will be a temporary license. It would only be good for this season. And so in terms of any subsequent season, an application would have to be made for a license for that season, and the process going through again. So what we're talking about right now, assuming that the village board is going to adopt the local law, is establishing the restrictions and the location for temporarily for this season. And it could even be changed in August if the board decides that there ought to be additional restrictions. So the law is set up to be flexible so that the board doesn't have to amend the law every time they want to make a change to a rule, regulation, or a restriction, because if it were set up that way, where everything were in the law itself, then you'd have to have a public hearing before you could make an amendment, and you lose a month, and you could have lost control on the ability to make changes. So the law is designed to be as flexible as possible, with the control in the Board of Trustees to, at any point in time, adopt a resolution with a restriction or a regulation. So the input is coming now, and then the board will, decide what the initial stuff should be.
I have a question. If the size of the camp is reduced, I would be able, as a resident of the village, to hire a local surfer to teach my kids to surf. There's no restriction on that.
I'm going to defer to my
Private
attorney. It's a private lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what's going to happen.
And then you're gonna have 20 of those guys in a war.
I mean.
Well,
this is dealing with a surf school.
Yeah.
You're raising another question.
It's happening now.
This is a
You know it's
process
happening
that the
now.
board is
Giving
starting
private lessons.
with, for example, both with the outdoor dining thing and with the special event permits on the beach. As time went on, the board would make changes and et cetera in response to things that they perceived as a problem.
So I think to
This is a starting point, not an ending point. We're not going to be able to answer every question you ask.
But I think
It's trying to deal with a specific problem that has come about that the board feels needs regulation. Nothing is perfect when you first start off on a process that hasn't been regulated in the past.
I think to answer that question, the gentleman said, the attorney said that if we find out at the end of the year that maybe that's one of the undesired results of that, perhaps, from other people. We address that. That's why we can revisit this law. That's all about. I mean, laws and codes are written all the time. As I said before, this original one was about no commercials written in the 70s or 80s. They always get revisited, okay? Because times change. They change and get adapted to changing communities, changing time, changing what have you. If that, to answer your question, it spills over, and it does in itself does create another problem. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody here does. So we have to find out. We got to start somewhere. And if that does actually happen, and we find now, we come back at the end of the season, which I'm sure a few people will show up to let us know that is happening, then we will address that. And we do have the ability to do so. And then at that time, we'll see what the hell is necessary at that time. But we got to start somewhere. Thank you.
The question, is this a competitive process, or are you appointing one surf school? Is this a flying point
surf school amendment, or is this?
No, this is not a Flying Point Surf School amendment. This is a Village Code Surf School amendment. And then we have to put the parameters in place and then, and figure out and decide among the board how we're gonna handle the process with the help of our attorney.
So that's still open to discussion as to whether it's competitive as a concession bidding process, or?
Yeah.
There's not going to be a competitive bidding concession process like we have for Cooper's Beach for this season. It's obviously far too late for that. If the board decides they want to get into something like that, that would be something for next year. By the time we set up a concession competitive bidding process, the summer would be over. It's not something you do in the middle of the summer. So the answer is, it's not even possible to do it as a concession this season. The only request that we have for a surf school is the request of the Flying Point Surf School. So if the board adopts the local law, they will be acting on that request. That's the only request we have at the moment.
I actually came in for an application, asked for an application, you didn't have an application.
It's not an application.
If you ask for an application form, we don't have an application form, and we might never have an application form.
Well, we're gonna close the public hearing now, so.
I think his school should be grandfathered in. He's very successful, and I give him a lot of credit.
All right.
I love grandfathers. He's grandfather.
Okay, so, let's, any further comment from the board? Any further comment from the public in reference to the local law? Yeah, Michael.
I had one comment before. Two things you gotta remember. One, this is really a learning experience for everybody, and the intent is to resolve an issue. The one thing I would stress about people's concern about their quality of life is that, and I have never known people that have been trained on the ocean, that are swimmers, surfers, or fishermen, or anybody that travels the beaches, to be litterers, to be disregarding the environment, and to be abusive to what we all cherish here. And I really think that, I'm sure Shane teaches his kids the same thing, and very rarely have I ever seen an area where surfers are and they leave and there's piles of trash. They usually, now I'm sure there are, different areas that do different things, but usually when they leave, the beach is spotless.
Disputing their waste management.
Yeah. No, but I.
Okay, well, that was brought up at one point.
All right.
That's a quality of life.
Okay, any further comment? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Second?
Thank you.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then we'll
Thank you
work
all
on the
for showing up.
parameters and stuff. Okay.
Nope, no, I was thinking, looking at rules, but I've had a long sprint. I don't remember what I said. No, see that? I said that last year. Actually got to surf threes twice ago. Still a really good way.
Yeah, it was.
And no, they didn't beat me up.
They harassed me, but.
Thank you, guys.
Make a motion, we close the meeting.
Is this something I said to clear the room out?
I guess.
Wow. Just like nothing else. Fran, always a pleasure.
All right.
Yep.
See you soon.
Yep, sure.
You love it. Run it off.
Okay.
Take your job, watch it.
I see that, you're working on it.
Good job.
I see that.
Oh, you did clear the room.
We did.
Guys have a good evening.
Sick,
Thanks.
Franny.
Here, Fran. Wow, you did clear the
Okay,
room.
communications to the board here. Robin Hood.
Brenda, we're waiting for Brenda, I think. Are we, do we need?
Oh, we did vote on the.
No, we did.
No,
We didn't vote on.
We just closed the hearing, that's all we did.
Close
the public hearing.
Oh, okay. Well, we should vote on it to adopt it then.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay, we'll go into, we close the public hearing on this, so we'll talk about.
Okay, you got it.
Legal aspects at executive sessions.
All right, we have the Robin Hood Foundation. Robin Hood is seeking permission to set up stands in Southampton for our annual Lemonade event starting on Friday, August 30th through Monday, September 2nd, 2013. Lemonade is a Robin Hood Foundation-sponsored event where local families are invited to take a stand against poverty. From August 30th to September 2nd, kids across the Hamptons will host lemonade stands with proceeds going to benefit poor families living in poverty in New York City. The Robin Hood Foundation targets poverty in New York City by finding and funding the best community-based groups and partnering with them to maximize results. We partner with over 200 of the best community-based programs to save lives and change fates by funding and strengthening early childhood education, youth and job training initiatives that attack the root causes of poverty. Our board underwrites all administrative and fundraising costs, so 100% of donations go directly to programs helping New Yorkers build better lives. Although many local residents will be supporting the project with lemonade stands on their own private property, several area businesses have also offered to lend space outside the property for the day's event. Because these businesses do reside in the Southampton Village Commercial District, it is very important to us that we comply with all zoning regulations and that we fill out any permits that may be required in order to implement these stands on August 30th through September 2nd. Teaching our children that they may have the capacity to make the world a better place is a lesson that can last a lifetime. Thank you for your support, Carolyn Page.
Yeah, we've done this every year before. Well, and it's worked out nice. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize Robin Hood to set up lemonade stands in accordance with their letter dated July 3rd, 2013.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions, item 1, resolve that the reading of the minutes for the work session of June 25th, 2013 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, resolve the reading of the minutes for the organizational meeting of July 1st, 2013 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and that the actions taken at the meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated July 11th, 2013, totaling $378,604.46, warrant 4 general fund payables, $234,381.91, warrant 3 general fund, and $50,337.72, warrant 3 trust fund, and the village payrolls for the period from June 27th, 2013 to July 11th, 2013 be ordered and approved. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, lowering of communications, replacement phone system for PD, $37,393. 2 payments to Dunn Engineering for the LSSTC grant work, $12,594.75 and $11,941.74. National Fire Products testing for the Fire Department, $2,372.50. Nelson Pope and Voorhees Cooper's Neck bid documents, $5,030.69. Nelson Pope May Environmental, $1,464.75. Nelson Pope Marsh Environmental Services, $3,090. Nelson Pope April Environmental Services, $5,706.25. Payment to Norma Carras, the contract on the LSSTC grant, $275,055.35. And the Office of State Controller court fines from May, $20,385.50. Warrant 3.
I have a question.
Sure.
On bell ringer communications for the police department. What was that all about?
That the phone system crashed back in April.
Oh, it did?
We had to replace the whole system.
Yeah, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So.
That's not good.
Yeah, it was not good.
Completely shut.
Okay.
And also, so you know, that's the same phone system that was in Village Hall that was taken over there. So it was, the phone system was probably close to 20 years old, I think it was, so.
Okay.
Had the crank on the side, right, Doug?
Crank that didn't crank.
All right. Admit Computer, annual maintenance agreement for PD, $22,145. Alpine Software, Red Alert maintenance agreement, $10,624.19. Barco Products, garbage pails, $3,206.14. Black Bear, bulk oil for the garage, $1,691.28. Glen Marketing, summer newsletter, $1,892.78.
Page 2, Buzz Chew, garage supplies, $1,358.51. Page 3, Cash Productions, videographer for June, $1,699.50. Coastal Fire Systems, air pack testing for the fire department, $4,007.38. Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, NPA tax for the second quarter 2013, $8,980.50. Page 4, EMT Governmental Accounting Services for June, $1,192.50. Americo and Anna Fiore, overpayment taxes, $7,730.53. Page 5, Julie Fitzgerald, coordination of the 2013 September Fest Festival, $7,500. General Code Publishers, maintenance agreement for the building inspector's computer system, $5,376. Page 6, going on to page 7, Herrick Hardware Supplies for June, $1,446.12. Page 8, Jesco Garage Parts, $1,713.55, and Johnson Electrical Traffic Light Maintenance for June, $1,275. Page 9, Jurek Brothers Ammo for the Police Department, $6,539. LIPA Building bill, $2,877.40. Fire Department bill, $3,685.72. Street lighting bill, $4,692.30, and another one for the Building Department, $1,362.88. Glen Levy, Scar Settlement, $1,169.81. Page 10, Lynch's Garden Center, supplies for June, $2,324.18. Mayday Communications, maintenance agreement, $22,260. Jen Messiano, consulting services for a grant writer for June, $1,697.50. Page 11, Morgan Auto Supply, supplies for the garage, $2,042.25. Page 12, Nextel Communications, cell phone bill for June, $1,346.34. Norsec & Son June Carding, $4,895.46. Norsec & Son Porta Potties for the July 4th Parade, $2,100. Page 13, Postmaster, the postage for the summer newsletter, $1,072.11. Page 14, two payments to R&R Athletic Apparel, uniforms for Cooper's Beach, $2,023.65 and $1,754.32. Bottom of the page, Riverhead Brake Supply, going on to page 14, inspection and parts for the garage, $1,295.16. Page 16, Sprague, 2,504 gallons of gasoline, $7,413.59. Suffolk County Village Officials, dues for 2013 year, $1,250. And Vince Toomey, June legal fees, $9,460.36. Page 17, VHB Engineering, Safe Routes to School Engineering, $8,871.56. Wayne Scott Sand and Gravel, 83 tons of crushed blend, $1,000.56. And Wayne Scott services for grinding the debris at the Pistol Range, $28,000. Cross warrant. Payment to Fred Bertrand, tax sale redemption, $17,679.30. Payment to Regina Bertrand, tax sale redemption, $21,863.05. Braun Marketing, mailing for the July 4th Parade, $2,245.51. Hampton Signs, banners and signs for the parade, $1,310. Richard Hyman, tax sale redemption, $1,060.32. Raymond Lyons, tax sale redemption, $3,110.42. And Marion McCormick, tax sale redemption, $2,619.12. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring Mikhail Manev as a grasshopper at a salary of $11 per hour to replace John Bazubek. Motion?
I make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Governor of New York signed the Uniform Notice of Claim Act into law, and whereas this law allows notice of claims against public corporations to be served on the New York Secretary of State as agents for New York's public corporations, and whereas public corporations must designate an individual to whom the Secretary of State must mail notices of claim, so be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby designate the village administrator as such an individual to receive such notices of claim. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion on this.
There was a new law signed in by the governor on this, and it allows people that are filing a notice of claim to file directly with the state of New York, and they will have the responsibility of notifying us, okay? We have to register by Monday to get onto this program. There's a $250 filing fee, so if an individual wants to file a claim, they pay the $250 fee, and since we're registered, we get half of that to us.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Tracy McLaren for data input at the Southampton Village Police Department at an hourly rate of $16. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion is that,
They're behind in input over there, and it's not affecting the budget at all because we've lost 2 TCOs, so there's plenty of room in the budget to carry this.
it's the volume of uniform traffic tickets and parking tickets that need to be inputted into the system, and it's just, the volume's so great at this point in time. Last year, we actually had 3 secretaries working on a full-time basis year-round. Now it's part-time help to get us through the high-intensity time.
And this will be limited to 8 hours a week.
Yeah. Correct.
So overall cost savings for getting the same job
Significant
done.
cost savings. And from a revenue standpoint, it turns around. So.
All in favor?
Aye.
And discussion items, we have one item, a request from the Southampton Fire Department to use Dune Beach on August 4th, 2013 for their annual beach party, family beach party.
Yeah, it's the one they do every year. It's a family beach party where they bring their kids down and everything, so.
Only, I'm all for that. We brought up this thing that the walkway and the 12 by 24 deck has gotten duned in. And if you could push whoever.
Well, John went down there himself this week, and I think he's got a guy coming down Monday or Tuesday to look at something else, and he's going to talk to him about that.
Okay.
So he is definitely on it.
Otherwise, I'm definitely in favor of just doing it.
All right, so could I have a motion to approve Southampton Fire Department using Dune Beach on August 4th, 2013, from noon to 4 p.m.?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussions, comments from board members here. Rich?
Good enough.
I think we're all commented
I
out.
think, I just want to thank the public who showed up tonight and participated. Again, that's what it's about. Obviously, I'm looking at an empty room right now, so that's what everybody was here for, but I do want to thank everybody on both sides of that issue that showed up and said their piece tonight. And it was, as the mayor pointed out, it was done respectfully, which I definitely appreciate, because I could have gone many different ways and it didn't. So I thank everybody who participated in that public hearing tonight. And again, we're here to do something. We're going to start somewhere, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it all goes well. But thanks again.
Thanks. Mike?
Well, it's been a couple of days since, but I just want to say, boy, that was a great 4th of July parade.
Love the shorts, by the way.
It was really fabulous.
Rooting your legs?
Yeah.
I like
That's
his
a
leg better
tradition.
than my
yeah.
socks, so that's all I can say.
But really, we all should thank the village. We should thank Mark. We should thank Bob Grinsky.
Grisnick.
Yeah.
And all the members and boards and volunteers and people that were in the parade, because they made it one terrific activity. I really got to say, it was great.
Nancy?
I don't really have that much to add, other than I agree with Rich. I mean, it was a great meeting tonight. It's a concern of everyone's, but I do feel that our children need to learn how to swim in the ocean. And, how do you do that if you have to teach them in the ocean? So I'm glad that, I'm sure that we can come to some sort of a decision that will please everybody.
Thanks. Bill?
Very small thing, and Chief, if you could, Chief? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking down, and you weren't. I got a call from Bill Andoletti here, 8 or 10 days ago, and he brought something to my attention, and maybe you're the person to at least check and see if he was right. He was saying that the buttons on the intersection of Hill Street and Windmill Lane for pedestrians to cross the street, that he's been in that vicinity several times, and that he said once you push the button, it gives you like 6 seconds to cross the street, and he said people are about halfway across through the intersection or 2/3 of the way, and all of a sudden their lights are going for them again. And you might just check it to see if it does give a person enough time to make it, or are we luring them out there and hoping to God they make it?
All right, we'll take a look.
Deer in the headlight.
Well, you have a green arrow,
Like an
so
experiment, so to speak, Bill, is that what you're
maybe,
saying?
maybe mistimed.
Okay.
Now, that is a bad one, because I used to walk over there
You might just have some of your people.
And plus, it's a
check it
wide,
and
it's
time
a
it.
wide road.
It's a wide
And
road.
tomorrow,
We need a little more time.
You know, the other thing that I happened to just become aware of today, and I know it's been addressed, and I talked to your top assistant, but you might just check it in the morning that the traffic light at Bowdoin Square somehow, within the last week or 10 days, that in their fussing around with their construction projects, that they screwed up the timing on the traffic light, and
I think
today
so.
it caused a backup on Windmill Lane. It took me 8 traffic lights to get from Walbaum's to White Street so I could go in the back of the bank, because it was only coming on for 9 or 10 seconds, and like 4 cars would make it. And anyhow, so
Yeah, I actually
it'd be
think it
worth
is
putting
wrong.
a
Because
police
obviously I can look out my window and see the
yeah,
cars
it was.
back
You know,
up.
you couldn't get out of the police department, frankly, nor a fire truck. Anyhow, you might just help is supposed to be on the way. I know Steve.
No, it
heard-
wasn't, actually, we had a guy, one of the ordnance inspectors had a direct traffic there this morning.
Yeah, I think
It was
that's a-
malfunctioning.
Really, I think you should consider tomorrow until you know. Maybe you could just pay attention to the issue, because supposedly they're coming to reset the timing the way it used to be, which worked great. But I think it was such a bad situation. I just could not believe that it happened. And about an hour later, I was back there, and now the traffic was backed up to the library going north. Just so you know, if you wanted to go north and you're a squad car or a fire truck or something like that, you had to go in the other opposing lane and hope to God there was no cars coming the other way, because there's just no way. So it just
Okay.
you might pay some attention to that tomorrow.
All right,
And Windmill Lane.
yes,
Mhm.
at Hill Street.
Other than that, I think we ought to
Not at Hill
load
Street,
this
yeah.
popcorn stand.
Chief,
Oh,
did
by
you
the
wanna-
way, we're
did
gonna
you want
get-
to say something while you're here tonight?
Next week on Wednesday, the state's coming to look at reaccrediting us. So we didn't pass yet, so,
Okay.
but
Want us to pray?
we've been working pretty hard, trying to get us ready.
Okay.
And you never have enough time, no matter how early you start.
Right.
But if we do, it'll be the 5th time around, so.
Good time for
Good.
accreditation.
The
That's
first
great.
time was 93. We've gotten it every 5 years since then. So
That's great.
hopefully it'll turn out. And as you guys know, the air conditioning in headquarters broke, so the maintenance guys and everybody from the village and the contractors did a good job. So we're cool again.
Good. Okay. And then I just wanted to touch base about the Southampton Center. So tomorrow night is, what's that?
I have the invitation. if you
The
want.
invitation. Actually, tomorrow night, we have a cocktail party, and everybody's invited. It's open to the public. Encourage everybody to go. It's from 6 to 8. And there's a couple of really nice, 3 different works of art that are going to go on in there. And one's Diane Tuff. She's does these large photographs of the Arctic and Iceland and Greenland. And Bentley Meeker, who's a lighting expert, and he's got some light shows that go on. And then David Mikulek has a film series called Slow Dancing, and it's a pretty cool thing. So it's a couple of very exciting things. Friday nights we're starting the film series, outdoor films, and there's some. It'll be out on the lawn out there, so family oriented stuff.
When is that, Mark?
Starts on. Well, this
A week
is
from
tomorrow
tomorrow?
night, and then the film series starts.
That's tomorrow night also.
That's also
The first
tomorrow
film is
night.
8:30 tomorrow.
At 8:30.
Chasing
tomorrow.
Ice.
Yeah, Chasing Ice.
Oh, so it's after the
So-
cocktail party.
After
And
the-
do
right.
people bring their own chairs?
Bring your own chairs, blankets, food, popcorn, or whatever you want to do, and sit and come and watch the film. And we've got some really nice stuff. If you want to know more, it's southamptoncenter.org is the website. We have these pamphlets that are being
There's
passed out.
also, not to interrupt you, but also on our website, the page that was the Southampton Center will follow you directly to the Southampton Center website. We changed that link.
All right, great.
So you can access it that way.
It's, you know, and we're really doing a lot of work to keep that site active. You know, it's the centerpiece of the village of Southampton. It's an economic driver. We cannot afford to have that space blank, dark. And more activities that we can create, a wide variety of activities that we can create. We've got you know, a bunch of kids stuff that's going on. We have Lincoln Center Jazz is going to be at the end of the summertime. We've got all the film series that are going on. We have some exciting shows that are going on over there. And I do have to give Steve a lot of credit here for the work that you've done to get prep us for this point, and the building department
John
is
Claus's
really
crew has just been beyond belief.
yeah, because they had to we had to get 220 out to support the
Three-phase,
the three-phase to support the film series outside, and Jack Dew was drilling through 18 inches of concrete to run the wires, and they've done a fantastic job painting in there, getting it cleaned up, making sure the air conditioning's working properly, all of the things that needed to be done. Those guys have done a great job in a very short period of time. You get through the 4th of July and all of that's fun stuff, and then now we're to accomplish what they did this week. And my hat's off to the entire village crews, and you guys are doing a great job on the grounds, and we're putting plenty of trash containers out there. And
John's still taking my phone calls too.
And yeah, he said hi to me the other day. So yes, but it's good. It's a great community effort on repurposing that space, which is extremely important. And what that space is in 10 years from now is going to be different than what it is today, because it's going to take us a long time to put the process in place, let it evolve. It's again a process.
Well, the recognition has been good. The write-ups everywhere, Dan's, you know, everywhere I pick up something, there's been some nice writing about it. So definitely good job with you guys.
We're trying to get it out, get the word out, press, and we've done a good job. And if the flyer, the booklets for the programs, they're all over the village in different spots, and
People taking them.
We ordered 10,000.
We're filling up places multiple times, which is great.
Which is great. So it's exciting. It's exactly what we want to do, and there's a good group of people that have volunteered their time to make this happen, and we're very fortunate to have those board members here. So if you can come out tomorrow night, even if it's 5 minutes, and stop by and say hi, just to show support for what's going on here. Greatly appreciated. So. Okay.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
How come you send Mike and me the pink tie memo?
Real men wear
or
pink.
Steve.
I don't know.
Doesn't your mother dress you, too?
What happened to Rick?
Rick hasn't had a tie on in years.
I don't think I've ever seen him in a tie.
Okay, so one of the fanciest things I saw Rick in was the Father's
We've given
Day.
our son-in-law a pink tie and other pink things.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one. I just didn't receive the memo to wear it
but
tonight.
He won't wear them, and we tease him all the time. I wear them.
So it's good. It's good. So
I wear a tie.
We have any further comment from the public here? No comment from the public, so I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the public session to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing village employees and legal issues.
Second.
Aye.